Okay, here we are. I apologise for the building noises in the background. I've got people working down the road, but that's alright, it's not too bad. This is a video to show the rear steer and also a bit of setting up on this radio as requested by a viewer. So just a quick look around the car. We're outside today because we just fancied a bit of a different spot to be in, which is nice. So I got a servo mounted on the rear. I've only managed to get 2 fixings in there, just because everything was being a bit awkward, and it's got it. And I'm happy with that, to be honest. It's pretty sturdy. Yes, it does move around a little bit, but it's there. Linkage is all done, servo's on, wires routed through. So there we go. We're running 2 receivers. As I said in my previous video, this car can be run with a radio if I'm using the radio for the other car, or if I'm just using this car, whip the plugs over, put them in there, which is what I'll do now. 1, 2, easy as that. One radio to the other. The rear steer servo goes into channel 3, front steer's channel 1 obviously, and then your speed controller is in channel 2. Ideal. Right, tops. So the first thing you're going to want to do with these radios is you've got to bind your receiver. So I've got 2 or 3 receivers, and when you get new receivers, they'll come with a bind plug. Doesn't matter which way round it goes, it's just the outside to outside. So you get one of these with the receiver, and you're going to stick that straight in to the bind part. There you go, the bind port channel. I'll just take you down there to see that. It's right there. Second thing you do after you've connected your battery, now you've got the bind plug in, you can turn on the ESC. It's flashing because it's looking for a connection. Hold the bind button while you turn the radio on, and there you go. It's flashed up link, the light has stopped flashing, and now we've got a connection. So you're going to have functions straight from the get-go. It's operational straight away. Alright, but now you can fiddle with your parameters. So you're going to press this middle button. Now I've already bound this in, so I've got mine on channel 3. Don't forget to pull the bind link out. Now with the car off, you can select which model you want. So I've got 3 models on this radio. I've got my Sandacar, Vitera truck, and now I've got my crawler. You can change your names on these by selecting name up there. Click on that, and now you can scroll through your letters. Once you've done with that, back out. Assuming that your servos are all centered already, it now would be a good time to center your servo horns, because we've activated the radio with the car and the servos have settled where they want to be. So you could take your steering horns off now, set them so they're centered with your wheels, put them back on, and now you're into your reverse setting. This is going to allow you to switch your steering depending on which way it's steering with your servo. So if I put the car like that and I steer left, it goes left. Steer right, it goes right. If I want to change that, normal, now it's back to front, because I already had to do this to reverse. There. All the time I'm doing these functions, I'm selecting by pressing the button, I'm using the swivel button to navigate the options, and then when I'm done I can either press the button, in which you'll hear a higher beep, or you can press the backup button. Done. So now you've got your servo the right way, your throttle the right way, auxiliaries, and you've got 4 auxiliaries, and they can all be changed depending on what you're doing with them. Back out. EPA, now this is an interesting one. I sort of discovered this one while I was looking around, and EPA, I'm not entirely sure what the initials EPA stand for, but it gives you an option to adjust the maximum amount of power per channel. Now if I click on this, I can now select steering. So now I've selected it. Now I can adjust that parameter. Now 100% is what you would normally get from the get-go for your steering. That's steering power. I can ramp that up to 120%, gives me more steering power. That's funky. And you'll notice that when I steer left and right, the arrow changes. So I'm adjusting the steering to the right, and I'm adjusting the steering to the left. Now if I back up, select throttle, my throttle control, oops, drive shafts are running on that pot there. I can play around with throttle control percentages as well. So in forwards, I've got it set to 120%, so it can do maximum speed. But in reverse, I've backed it off to 55%, because I don't want it to reverse really fast. Just comfortably would be nice. So you can have a play around with those. Your sub trim next. It's I can't figure out why you would have the sub trim over the normal trim, to be honest. So there's the normal trim, and then back up to the sub trim. So you've got your steering, you've got your throttle, and you've got all of your auxiliaries, then your other 4 channels. So it seems to be just another option or another parameter that you can adjust for your trims. And I think it's got something to do with these. You can immediately access your trim settings via these while you're driving, but you can kind of zero them out with this facility. I'm not entirely sure. Have a play around with it and see what you think. Back out of that. Dual rate. Now dual rate would have been, in my eyes, the same as this EPA. The amount that you allow something to happen. So if I was to select that with the steering, I've got my steering working at 100%. If I turn that all the way down to 30%, now we've only got slight movement. So it's restricting the movement, and then you can kind of give it back. You would want to do this if, say for instance, your servo is overpowering on this steering. See how it's meeting the locks, but the servo is still trying to push. It's not achieving anything other than bending your links. So you can back that down. Let's back it down to 80%. Still over pushing. Let's back it down to 60%. It's getting there now. 40%, surprising how far you can go. That's a bit too much. 50. $55. So that's actually, I'm going to leave that there. at 55%, because what that's doing is preventing you from over pushing and just straining on your links. The steering can only go so far, so why push it any further? You'll burn your servo out, you'll break your links. Exponential, this is a facility that I do like. So if you click on exponential, maybe you want to run it on his steering, but I don't know why. But if you go to throttle, now you might use this. And what you can do with that is, if I max that out now to 100, set it to 100, and I use my throttle control, see the amount of movement I get in my throttle, my trigger finger, compared to the movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to set my finger on that throttle, and back down again. So what that is doing is it's giving me more fine control on the throttle. If I turn that off down to nothing, all of a sudden it's quite sharp. Back up to 100. Fine control. You still get full throttle, but you get fine control. You can adjust that for your steering as well. ABS, you can have brake assist on there. This would apply more so to a faster car, so we'll just have that as off. Oops, off. You got your trims, steering, lefts and rights. That's how you can do your fine adjustments, of course, on your steering trims. Bring that in. I've already done those. Excellent. Fail safe, on or off. That's if you're running a petrol car and you run out of signal, whether it's going to turn the engine off or just leave it run on. Not so much needed with the RC trucks, because you're standing right next to them anyway. And then we've got our crawl mode. This is the one that started me off with this video all in the first place. So we've got crawl mode A, which is regular steering. Alright, click on that. Mode B, that's rear steer. Mode C, crab mode. Mode D, front and rear steer working together for the tighter corners. And then on the next one is off. For some reason it just cranks that over to the side and just sits there. So when you're using this, generally you're going to leave it in A, and then you can explore these options as you go backwards and forwards when you're driving. SVC is drifters might want to use this when they're learning, or if you've got a really powerful car on a slidey surface. This is your gyroscopic steering correction. So you use this in a fast car because these receivers, they actually come with an inbuilt gyro, and they can sense what the car is doing In fact, I could turn this on now for the sake of the video. Calibrate. There we go. Turned it on. There we go. Right, ready? How funky is that? So imagine you're racing your fast car around, you get into a corner and the back steps out. That steering helps to correct it on the spot. I don't know if this works in crawler mode. Nah, it only works on the front servo, which makes sense. Why would you need it on a crawler anyway? Oops. Try it just with the rears. Interesting. Even though it's even though I've biased the crawler mode to only the rear, it's still controlling the front servo. That's funny. Anyway, SVC, we're not using that, so we turn it off. There. Press back up, tells you exactly what your voltage is in the radio again, and then you can just play with it as you were. Crawler, yeah. Have it on D, I think. Oh, anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.